from ESPN. Wow, he is terrific. I love his analysis. What a player, what a gamer. I mean, you think about a gamer at quarterback, you think about Alex Smith. Alex, good morning, my brother.
Yeah, morning. Great to be here.
Man, this matchup is so fascinating. First, listen, you started this. Andy, I remember what Andy did with Doug when he came to Philadelphia, and you started this whole thing, man. You had played an even bigger part, obviously, when it going to the playoffs and really kind of taking what Andy's vision was and building the dynasty and helping mentoring Patrick.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much credit I have, obviously, to do with this insane Super Bowl run they have. But yeah, I mean, listen, when Andy got to Kansas City and we were the worst team in football, had won 2 games the year prior, and he decided to trade for me and change my career. I was always such a fan of Andy's from afar and had some tough matchups with him in my days at the Niners. But I think the thing that I love so much, especially from a quarterback perspective, is he's always had success, especially in every quarterback he's had has had success with him. But we're all very different. I know 2 of us have been alike. We all have very different skill sets and strengths. And that's the beauty of Andy. And he's this, the ultimate coach. He doesn't just know a playbook, and he's trying to fit us into his playbook, really building everything around his players' strengths and certainly his quarterback strengths on offense. And so I just really appreciated that. And certainly my career changed when I went to Kansas City and got to be under his tutelage, and his patience, his development, his demeanor. Listen, it's a pressure-packed situation, football. And if you're losing and it can get to, the best of men and people for that matter. And Andy's just so unfazed by it. Right. And that really had a profound impact on me. Seeing him, no matter the ups and downs, Andy came to work every single day. It was just the same old Andy, and he loved it. He loved teaching, loved being around the guys and just talking ball. And for me, I know how much that meant to me at that point in my career. And again, something I took with me forever.
And you could talk about this better than anyone. The importance of a quality offensive guy, a quality coach. Now, Andy's, among the best, but look at what Jalen Hurts has had to deal with. Jalen comes in and it's one coordinator after another comes into a spot, right, where you got a franchise quarterback in Wentz, and, that whole thing has to play out. Then you have a series of coordinators. That's difficult for any quarterback to have to go through that sort of coaching change. He finally has a rhythm, and now it looks like Kellen Moore is going to leave for New Orleans. But can you talk to the point of continuity and the level of good coaching you need as a quarterback?
Yeah. Listen, I feel like I know this well. I had 7 coordinators in my first 7 years. And in some ways, it's kind of the name of the game in the NFL. And I think when you're a young player, it's hard at first, right, to keep learning a new system just when you feel like you have a foundation underneath you and you're ready to take the next step and you start all over. I do think at some point, and you're starting to see it with Jalen, it does become a strength, though. He's been lucky enough. He's been around a lot of great offensive minds, from Doug to Nick Sirianni, obviously Shane Steichen and Brian Johnson and Kellen Moore. Like, you start to just accumulate a lot of knowledge, and at some point it kind of flips for you, and you can handle any situation because you've seen so much and been around so much. And Jalen, listen, I think he doesn't get enough credit. Let's just say that there's so many things he does that don't show up on the stat sheet. He makes this run game go. So much of it is obviously QB driven, and all the decisions he makes. He's so good with the football, especially for a young player. I think even going back to his Alabama days, this guy, knows how to take care of the football and then can throw it as well, especially from the pocket and beat you. And again, I just think he's really what makes this thing go. I know Saquon obviously is having an unbelievable year, and this offensive line is a monster as well. But again, I just think this guy does so much that doesn't show up on the bottom line. And I think he's such a phenomenal player. And obviously, I think even if he has to deal with another change here at coordinator, he'll be just fine.
It's interesting because I'm with you, and I think sometimes we all think of a quarterback and have this vision in our head, right? Like, everyone wants to see Burrow darting the ball down the field, and that's great and all. But the way Hurts plays it like a point guard, right? Which spreads the ball around, right? So much has to do with him. He calls the protections now that Kelsey retired. He's the one in control. He's the one, and I think the greatest example or analogy is that of a point guard and how vital it is. You need a great point guard to win, and he's a winning point guard quarterback.
Yeah, and listen, and I think that's a great analogy, especially for this year. The reality is, listen, Jalen could put up ridiculous numbers if he was in a different system, right?
Yeah.
If this offense was asking him to do that, he has the tool set to go do that. And I think he's obviously just such a great teammate and the consummate pro that, listen, that's not the recipe right now. We got Saquon and this run game is rolling, and we got one of the best defenses in football, if not the best. And right now it looks different. And even despite the criticism that he's gotten at times about, the pass game, listen, this is a winning formula, and it very well is going to hoist the Lombardi here soon. So I credit him, right? He's put the ego aside. He certainly, if he had the opportunity, we all know could do a lot more. But that's not the case right now. And again, winning's most important, and I think we all know that Jalen knows that. There are going to be some plays though, again, that decide this football game, and he again is such a weapon in short yardage, goal line, red zone. His ability to run the football, and then again, I think we saw it obviously a couple weeks ago in the championship game. And this guy can throw the rock. He's done it before. And again, whether or not he gets the opportunity, we'll see this next Sunday.
Alex, this matchup, I'm fascinated. You as with your football IQ must be fascinated by it, because you look on one side, we talk about that Eagles offense in the run game, and you look at Spags, who's such a great defensive coordinator, and little things like the Eagles they run best out of 11, right? The Chiefs struggle against the run at 11. The Chiefs are great against 12 personnel, right? So does Spags keep his linebackers on the field? Does he look at, all right, well, there might be a mismatch with Goddard or Barkley out of the backfield, but he knows he has to stop that run game. And, just putting 8 in the box doesn't do it. You saw that, Barkley could make you pay. You get to that second level and he's gone. Hits more home runs than Aaron Judge. I'm fascinated by like that chess match of, what you do, what Spags is going to do, how the Eagles, configure it. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, again, I think there's a reason that Vegas has this as a 1-point game, because it's so evenly matched. I mean, listen, this Eagles roster is ridiculous. Howie Roseman, has built a juggernaut. And to think of where this, to go back and watch the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and an aging defense, an older defensive line, and now here 2 years later, it's like, this is one of the youngest units in football. And oh, by the way, they're the best in football. And I was with Vic Fangio for a couple of years. He's brilliant. He's one of the best defensive coaches there is. And again, obviously to see the turnaround he's done there is obviously a big part of it. But I'm interested. Listen, the Chiefs have struggled against the run the last few weeks, especially here in the playoffs, going against some good backs and some good run games. But historically, the Chiefs have been phenomenal under Spags against the run. Right? Like he's an old school coach, man. He's not gonna just let you run it down the field, right? He's going to go out swinging. But the other thing is Spags, again, is so unorthodox. And I mean that as a compliment. It's always different. You're not going to just get 8 in the box, man across the board very often, right? He's constantly disguising and creating chaos, right? All the pressures. He's so multiple, lots of different fronts. You obviously bring up the personnel. Is he going to keep base on the field? Is he going to play nickel? We'll see. He plays with a lot of personnels. Last year I did a breakdown of a game. I think he had 9 defensive personnel in one football game.
Yeah,
and
insane,
that's rare
yeah.
For everybody out there. That's incredibly rare.
Yeah,
and so he's so multiple. And now you give him 2 weeks to get ready for this. And again, this is a defense though that's been together here for the last few years, especially the core of this. And so they really know the scheme. And again, they've been in the spotlight. They know how to eliminate distractions. And get ready for a Super Bowl. So I can't wait. I'm like you. I can't wait for this matchup. Again,
and
nobody
the Eagles
though.
Front, right, Alex? O-line. That Eagles O-line is probably the best in football, right? It's a great moving Becton inside.
Yep.
Just the girth, the size of that line is ridiculous.
Yeah, and nobody's really stopped them this year. You know, and again, I go back to even when you try to create a number advantage and get your extra hat in the box with the safety. That's when they can pull out the QB-driven runs, and all of a sudden you're back to square one, right? Because Jalen's accounting for somebody. And then this offensive line, they're just so good. And with a guy like Saquon, you don't need much. We've seen the home run power that he's had. And I think that'll be key to this. Can the Chiefs eliminate the explosive runs? Because this offense, again, to go back, Jalen, they typically you need pass game to create explosive plays. That just hasn't been the case for this offense because of Saquon. And so can you not allow some of these 30, 40, 50-yard, runs and, even keeping them to 8, 10, 12 yards is a win in some respects. And try to get them behind the chains, try to make them drive the field and make a mistake. I think they're obviously going to be hopeful to do that, but nobody's done it yet.
Yeah. Listen, and on the other side, nobody, I get it. When you win, there's always fatigue, right? There was Patriots fatigue, right? Brady fatigue, Peyton fatigue. Right now, there's Chiefs fatigue. But you help mentor Mahomes, and those stories about him are amazing as an athlete, but as a guy, he's just such a great dude, man. He really is. And I know people are like in Philadelphia, especially, we're going to talk about, referee bias and all that stuff. But you worked with him. You could talk about it better than anybody, the level of guy he is, an athlete. Like, I know he's a scratch golfer. He does everything well.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's some people that play football to be famous, right? Because they like the spotlight. And then there's some people that are just famous because of the byproduct that they're just a good football player. And this guy is that. I mean, he grew up in the locker room with his dad. This guy, all he knows is ball, man. He loves to compete. It drives him every day. And, like his sense of urgency, the edge that he has, that he still has. I spent time with him this year. I mean, despite all his success, that's the greatest start to a career we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's driven as ever. He always has an edge, and it's unique. And then he's just such a good dude, such a good person. Again, I think the ultimate teammate. And I think what's so special is, listen, these last 2 years, the football he's played, I think it's the best football. We're going to look back on this and just say how special it was. I know the numbers. It's not 55 touchdowns like we're accustomed to seeing him. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and these guys in their prime, and they're not throwing it all over the yard, which I think you potentially, again, going back to his college days, we were so accustomed to seeing him, right? This guy's puts up 400 yards passing like nothing. He's had to morph and change these last couple of years. And there's not many guys that can do that. They just can't. And this guy can get you in so many different ways. And right now, he's getting the ball out faster than anybody in football, especially these last 8 weeks, right? Their offensive line, they're shuffling guys around. Yeah. Hollywood Brown's out for the year. Rasheed Rice is basically out for the year. Pacheco misses most of the year. Like, no other team goes through that and goes 15-1. And this guy, they still lead the league in third down conversions on offense, right? They're just methodical. And again, they don't have explosive plays, right? Like, which we've always seen from them. And again, Patrick just continuing to morph. He does everything at the line, man. This guy makes every single protection call, the run, the pass. There's multiple checks. He just, again, we obviously can't say enough about him. He's that good. So it's so cool. And obviously on the cusp of history, which is insane to think about that no team, obviously, even been at this point, have a chance to repeat. So again, I can't wait to watch this one.
Yeah, and the last thing, that matchup, circle number 98 on the Eagles front, right in the middle. That dude, Alex, scary. Jalen Carter, and the Vic's going to probably put him over Caliendo at left guard. Ah, my God, dude, he's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's many guys you're gonna want a one-on-one block. Jalen all day. You just don't. You're gonna want to turn to him. Believe me, obviously the Chiefs are know it well. But again, if you have to put resources over there, all of a sudden you're one-on-one on the other side, and they got good players. That's the thing about this Eagles defense. There's good players everywhere. It's hard to find a weakness. These edge players are playing so good. Nolan Smith Jr. Man, the linebacker level, Zach Bond, man, is just
Right?
been
What a great
on a
story.
tear. And then the secondary, right? Like these guys just, especially to have two young bucks back there and how good they're playing, how mature they're playing. Cooper DeJean to be playing in the slot, it's tough. It's really tough. You got to deal with run game. You're getting shift and motion,
like a rover back.
picked and rubbed, and this guy is so physical at the point. And then obviously handles it in coverage as well. So it's hard to find the matchups against this defense. And then again, Vic Fangio has them coached so well. They space the field so well. They all know their leverage. They're just, man, they're very, very, very disciplined and obviously good players. And you said it though, starts up front. I mean, when you can rush 4 and get home, obviously you can do a lot of things then on defense.
How do you watch it? How will you watch it Sunday?
I will be here. I'm doing
the
pregame for ESPN Countdown, which will be a ton of fun in the stadium. And then I'm lucky enough I get to do postgame. My first time doing NFL primetime. So I'll be there with Boomer and Boog on the field.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. You doing that? Are you kidding me? That's fantastic. All of Philadelphia will be watching Countdown. You know that this town can't wait. Well, the first thing we'll be turning on is you, buddy.
Yeah, well, I can't wait. I'm pumped as well, man. Listen, obviously a couple weeks to gear up for this one, and special for a lot of reasons. But both these teams, man, I think this is a heavyweight bout, and it doesn't get any better.